It is good to see you. It is good to be here. Who's enjoying our You Asked For It series? Yeah, how awesome is that? You know that you can send questions through. I don't know where, somewhere. Where can we send the question? We'll find out later. You can send questions through. If there's something that you would really like to hear spoken about, something that's relevant into your world, you can send questions through. But tonight we are going to look at a topic that is very relevant right now in our world, and that is looking at the likes and dislikes of social media. And we're going to particularly look at it from protecting our mind, protecting our heart, and protecting our families. Because who knows that it is a very relevant topic. Let's go, show of hands, who has some form of social media? That's the majority of us. It's relevant for us, but even if we don't have social media, it is affecting our world, it's affecting our families, it's affecting our friends. So it's good to know and be aware of some of the great things about it, but some of the things that we need to just be wary of and maybe put some boundaries in place. But before I get into things tonight, if you want to follow me on Snapchat, my name is Sarah is the best Bilan. If you want to follow me on Twitter, my name is... Actually, I don't know. If you want to follow me on Facebook, actually, hang on a second. I don't have any of those things. Awkward. I'm talking about social media and I don't have Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat. Nope. I have Instagram. Go Instagram. I don't really use it very often, maybe once every 12 weeks. So clearly I'm the expert to be speaking about social media tonight, right? Yeah, okay, maybe not. Look, I'm not an expert in that sense, but because of working as a psychologist, Pastor Josh mentioned, I've been working as a psychologist for 4 years now. I work every Saturday in a private practice. And a good portion of what I do is I see a lot of kids and teenagers, probably 50%. And I can guarantee you that it is so relevant in our teenagers and in our kids' world. And a lot of what I'm going to talk about tonight is not because I use social media myself so much, but to give good practical tips from a psychological point of view of how we need to protect ourselves, because I don't really have it myself, and maybe there's a couple reasons for that, but there are some great things to know. But let's first look at some of the ways social media affects us in our world. Let's check out this pic. Who's ever noticed this before when you've gone out to a restaurant? Meanwhile, on Instagram. Okay, we're going to do a little segment called #RealTalk. Put up your hand if you've ever taken a photo of your food and posted it on social media. I know, right? Why? Why do we have a compulsion to do it? We must share what we eat. We can't help it. Because what would we do if we didn't? Then this would happen. Next pic. Instagram is down. Describe your lunch to me. How would we get by if we weren't posting pictures of our lunch? There would be some very full-on conversations. Who's ever gone out and maybe been a culprit of this, and you've gone out to go see your friends and then this has happened? Yeah, some great conversations happening right there. Good to see you. I've missed you. What's happening in your world? Nope, on social media. Who's been a victim of that? Who's done that? Yes, we've all done it. Here's one of my favorite ones. Social media has definitely changed the way that we take photos. Found a picture of my grandma this day, and in 90 years' time, this is what we'll be looking at. I can't wait to see a picture of me looking like that for my grandkids. Anyway, so it's changed the way that we relate. It's changed the way that we communicate. It's changed the way that we talk. There is a whole social media world that we construct out there. I want to show you my favorite Instagram account that I follow, my favorite by far. Her name is Sociality Barbie. Has anyone seen Sociality Barbie before? Oh my gosh, it is the best, right? Sociality Barbie is an account that was created by someone who wanted to mock the people on Instagram because all of their photos looked the same. So here she's posted a photo of her with a hat on, her hipster glasses, and she's written, "Could I be any more authentic?" #authentic, #Instagram my photo, all those hashtags. I love it, right? Because has anyone noticed so many photos on Instagram look the same? It's like the same photo with just different people. Let's look at another one that she's posted. "I hope your weekend is as beautiful as mine." Let's be honest. She's saying, look how good my weekend was. Am I right? Is that not what she's trying to communicate? My weekend was the best. That's what she's saying. All right, let's have a look at the next one. Okay, hashtag real talk. Who's posted a photo like this before? Be honest. Come on, you're telling me not one of you who's seen a photo like this before on Instagram? That's right, if anyone's offended, it's a Barbie doll. It's not real legs. I'm not real, so I can't get in trouble for that. It's a doll. Taking a relaxing bath and feeling so hashtag blessed. Please, I want to vomit. Like seriously? Next. Oh, I love this one. Having coffee with this gem. Can I just say how amazing this girl is? She keeps me grounded and inspires me to live my best authentic life. So glad we're in community together. I just wish she didn't live all the way in LA. Now look, this is what I'd say about this one. There is nothing wrong with posting a picture about a friend and saying how much you love or appreciate them. But who talks like that? I don't sit across from Pastor Janine and say, Pastor Janine, you're such a gem. Like, if I did talk like that, that would be fine. But there's something so inauthentic about the way that she's presenting this. She's actually really saying, look how awesome I am because I post about my friends. Am I right? Come on. Next one. This one's my favorite. Had to stop looking at the ocean to take a picture of myself looking at the ocean so I could post about how beautiful the ocean was. Thank you, Instagram. Because that's what life has become. I can't just take a photo of the ocean anymore and say, wow, how beautiful is the ocean? How amazing is God's creation? I have to take a photo of myself looking at the ocean. Social media has become a construct of how we want to portray our lives. It's become something that isn't completely real. It's not actually based in reality. It's what we want people to see about us so that we feel good about ourselves or we feel liked or accepted. Now, don't get me wrong. Not all social media is that. And lots of us use social media in a really positive and a really real way. And there's nothing wrong with posting what you've done on your weekend or posting a picture of your food or about your friend. That's not the point. The point is that often it is used in a way to show something about how good am I or how good is my life. And there's that element of it that can actually be really damaging, not so much to us when we're adults, but when you're a young teenager growing up and this is what you're seeing in your world, you begin to think that this is the way my world needs to look and this is the way that I need to look, and that's where it can be damaging. So before we get too far ahead, let's look at some fun facts about social media. Let's put these up on the screen really quickly. Some stats. As of last year, 176 million people use social media. That's a lot of people. Come on, real quick, let's get 1 million new active mobile social users are added every day. That's 12 each second. That's crazy. Facebook drives 23% of all traffic across the entire internet. What would Facebook do without the internet? It's all about Facebook. 30% of all news comes from Facebook. There is an estimated 81 million fake Facebook profiles. 81 million fake people out there. Instagram has 400 million users and 80 million photos are uploaded each day. That is crazy. There are 3.5 billion Instagram likes per day. Not just for young people, people aged 55 to 64 are more than twice as likely to engage with branded content than those 28 or younger. Who knew? There are 3.5 billion hours of video watched each month. What are we doing with our lives? On average, there are, is that 1 million? What is that number? Is it a million? Is it a million? It's a really, really large amount of mobile video views per day. Next stat. Social media isn't just for kids anymore. 31% of all seniors, shout out seniors, are on Facebook. Good on you, seniors. More people own a mobile device than a toothbrush. Now that can't be real, right? Who's taking photos at like selfies and they haven't brushed their teeth? Surely that is a face. That's what happens when you get your facts from Facebook. All right, next. If Facebook were a country, it would be the largest country or county on earth. In the US, 1/3 of couples that get married meet online. Wow. I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to say wow. 1/3 of women aged 13 to 34 check social media before going to the bathroom in the morning. Hashtag real talk, that's me. Next stat. 53% of millennials would rather lose their sense of smell than their technology. Oh, wow, we're in a scary place. 73% of people feel lost without their social media device. It's scary. There's some scary stats out there. You know what? There was a report that came out really recently, which is why people are talking a lot about social media at the moment. And look, don't get me wrong, we're going to have a bit of fun tonight, but we are not at all, I'm not trying to say that social media is evil and everyone who uses it is bad and no one should have social media. Social media can be great. It is a great way to connect with people. It's a great way to keep in contact with our family and friends, especially family and friends who live overseas. You know, we live busy lives. It's a great way to see what's going on in people's world. Social media is a great thing, and in no way or at any point in what I'm saying, please don't take home that social media is bad. It's not. It's a medium that can be used in a lot of great ways. There's many, many positives. Social media is helping us tackle some of the world's biggest challenges by bringing awareness to them. Social media, so many businesses use social media as a platform to reach people. We have the ability as a church to show ourselves on social media. People are able to connect with us, hear about what we do. We're able to break paradigms because of using social media. It is a great platform to communicate many good messages. My mum has Instagram. She will never, ever, ever use it to post a photo. The only reason that she has it is so that she can message me using the Wi-Fi instead of using her data because she still buys credit. Like, it's a great way to stay connected with people. Social media in itself is not the issue. Even from our church, as a church, people who listen to our podcast or follow us on social media, last year we reached 26,000 people who listen to our weekly podcast. How amazing is that? We are far going beyond the four walls of our church. There were almost 34,000 people that we reached on Facebook. It's incredible. I was talking to someone just almost 2 weeks ago who said that one of the reasons that they came to our church is because one of the mums of the kids, their kid went to a school, one of the mums posted about our church on Facebook. And so they went up to that mum and asked a couple of questions. They ended up coming to our church. It was one of the things that brought them into this church because someone posted about what we do on Facebook. So it's an incredible avenue and has lots of good things about it. So we're not saying at all that social media is bad, but we are saying we need to be aware of some of the things that potential dangers and pitfalls. And this brings up the report that recently was written about social media. It said that Instagram was the most detrimental social networking app for young people's mental health, followed closely by Snapchat. Their study, Status of Mind, surveyed almost 1,500 young people aged 14 to 24 on how certain social media platforms impact health and well-being issues. And the report found that it can have a negative impact on issues such as anxiety, depression, self-identity, and body image. I want to show you a really quick video about this report and what it found.
It allows me to keep in contact with my friends.
It's interesting to see what other people are doing without being nosy about it.
You can find the best memes on internet.
I just like posting pictures of myself.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah, it can. Everything on social media I find very curated.
You can create your own kind of like lifestyle online, so you can have a fake lifestyle.
I know that I've spent maybe like half an hour taking like the perfect like studying picture.
You do feel a bit intimidated.
You go on your Explore page and then you'll see somebody with, I don't know, a better car than you, better grades than you, like a fitter girlfriend than you. Like it could be anything, and you'll always want more.
I think it's just made things really superficial.
Like they try and compare themselves to people on Insta, and they don't know that these people are like photoshopping in the background and doing all this extra stuff. It's quite a depressing thing if you're climbing up to get somewhere but you're never going to reach.
Instagram, I think.
Instagram, by far. Is that right?
Between Instagram and Twitter.
Probably Facebook.
Facebook.
Snapchat, actually.
Honestly, I think Tinder. Real talk, real talk.
Was that wrong?
So what I find so interesting about that is they asked, do you think social media is bad for your mental health? And everyone said, yep, definitely, without a doubt. There's, yep, 100%. No one said, no, I don't think, yep, we know that it's not good for us. But we're all going to keep using it. It's almost like people who smoke and they know that it's unhealthy, but I'm not going to give up because it's an addiction. And social media actually can become an addiction. And we'll talk a little bit about how it affects the brain and why that happens. But I want to talk tonight about the 3 main dislikes or 3 main potential problems that can happen with using social media. Now, the truth is, right, these 3 things that I'm going to talk about, they're not inherently caused by social media. These 3 problems have actually been around since the beginning of time because we live in a broken world with broken and hurt people. And it's not that social media all of a sudden caused these major issues in our world. They've always been there. But what social media can do is it can add fuel to the fire. And it can mean that it gets exacerbated. You guys know what I'm saying. It can mean that it makes it worse for us because of using social media too much. But in saying that, these 3 issues that I'm going to talk about, you might not use social media and still find that these in your world or they're affecting your family or your teenagers because it is just a product of living in the world that we live in. We live in a world that's highly consumeristic. We live in a world that bombards us with information. We live in a world that we're connected and busy and connected to so many things, and yet people in the world today feel more lonely than ever, more disconnected than ever, feel a total sense of lack of purpose. So these things aren't caused by social media, but social media can definitely affect them. And the first thing I want to talk about is anxiety and depression. You know that 45% of people in their lifetime will experience anxiety and depression, and in our youth it's increasing. The amount of teenagers I see as a psychologist and kids who are suffering from anxiety and depression is astounding. And social media definitely isn't the cause, but it can have an effect and it can increase that. You know, research has shown that people who use heavy users of social media are much, much more likely to experience anxiety and depression. What's a heavy use of social media? They say 2 hours a day. If you're using Instagram, so whatever it is, 2 hours a day, and that's not in a row. That can be, 10 minutes here and 10 minutes there. It can have a drastic effect on our social health. Seeing friends constantly on holiday or on nights out or taking perfect selfies or living what looks like an amazing life can make teenagers compare and think, my life isn't that good. I don't have much going for me. I don't look that good. My life's not that exciting. And they can they call it compare and despair, and they can have unrealistic expectations set by social media. It develops self-consciousness, low self-esteem, and the pursuit of perfectionism, which manifests in anxiety and depression. They've done a lot of brain studies on what happens when we use social media, and they've found that when we use it and when we get something like a like, the reward centre of our brain lights up. Now, the reward centre of our brain usually happens when things happen like we see the person that we love, or someone gives me money and I'm like, yes, my reward centre lights up. But with heavy use of social media, our brains are almost being rewired. So now, if I use social media all the time, the thing that makes my brain light up and gives me those feel-good feelings or releases that chemical dopamine, which makes me feel good, is when I see that someone liked my Instagram post. Now, you would think that someone liking an Instagram post is fairly insignificant, but when we use it heavily, time and time again, that becomes the thing that gives us that sense of feeling good, gives us that sense of validation, gives us that sense of feeling accepted. Now, let me ask, okay, hashtag real talk. Who's ever posted a picture or a post or whatever, and you've gone back and looked to see how many likes you got? Come on, people. Well, you just don't care how many likes you get. Whatever, I don't believe you. No, right? We look, right? Hashtag real talk. Who's ever looked and gone through the list to have a look and see who liked the photo? Not just the number, but who actually liked it, right? Yeah. Two hands, I like it. Hashtag real talk. Who has then thought to themselves, who hasn't liked my photo? Why do we do that? How interesting. It's because it's become something so seemingly insignificant and unimportant, but we've been trained and our brain has been rewired to go, this is so important. This tells me how important and valid I am. Now, as adults, we can laugh about that and we go, of course it's not that important. But when you're a teenager, it makes a big impact in your world. And there are so many teenagers that this is the one source of how they feel important, how they feel valued, how they feel loved. It is this. More than anything else in their world, it has become social media. Now, we know that that is a huge problem because our foundation was always meant to be on God. It was always meant to be found in Jesus Christ. It was always meant to be on that foundation that I know that I'm loved no matter what, that I know that nothing is going to take away from that or impact that, nothing that I could do, no picture that I could post could change the way that God loves me. But without that foundation, particularly in our teenagers, it is drastically having an impact on their world and causing anxiety and depression. I want to look at the next issue. This is a huge one. It's so important, you know what, for everybody, but particularly in our teenagers, and it's identity, body image, and the need for acceptance. Identity is such an important issue, and where you get your sense of identity from will drastically impact how successful you are in your life. Identity, here's a couple of facts about how social media impacts our identity. Do you know that Australians take more selfies than anyone else in the world as a percentage? We are a vain country. 31% of people use apps to modify the way that they look in a selfie. Now, come on. We can look at that and like, there's something wrong with that we would get such a sense of identity. Do you know, as a psychologist, I see so many teenagers and young women who struggle seriously with body image. Do you know they say that 9 out of 10 young girls hate their body or struggle with some degree of body image? That is devastating. There's something wrong with our society because what happens is they see these perfect pictures on Instagram, these perfect women who have nothing wrong with them, but they don't realise that there's filters. They don't realise that there's photoshopping. They don't realise that not everybody looks like that. And they don't know how to find their sense of worth and identity in who God created them to be and to find their foundation in that. Another problem with social media and identity is we are living in a world where it is all about me. Why do we take selfies? Because we make it about us. Why are we posting things on social media? Why are we telling people what we ate for breakfast? We're living in a world where everything, 90% of the time, is all about me. The problem with this is this is not the way that God intended things to work. Last time I checked, has nothing to do with me. Last time I checked, my whole purpose in life is to make it about Him. I'll give you a great example of John the Baptist. There was a time where Jesus was baptizing people, and there was an argument with John the Baptist's disciples, and they came to John the Baptist very, very distressed, and they said this. John 3:36, so they came to John and said to him, Rabbi, the one who was with you on the other side of the Jordan, about whom you testified, see, he is baptizing and everyone is flocking to him. Now, this is the equivalent of John the Baptist opening up his Insta-Follow app and looking and seeing that 100 people have unfollowed him. Do you know that there's an app for that? To see how many people have unfollowed you? Hashtag Real Talk, who has that app? Come on, you're telling me not one person in this room, yeah? Do you know, I know there are staff who have that app. Yeah, that's right, we have some insecure staff. It's true, I'm not going to point out who it is, mostly because they might be the youth pastors, but that's okay. They're not here. There is an app to see who's unfollowed you. So this is the equivalent of John the Baptist's well. They're coming to him, they're saying, Jesus is baptizing more people than you, and now they're all flocking to him and they've gone to follow him. You're John the Baptist. We can't allow this. This can't happen. You can't have people stop following you and go and follow Jesus. What are you going to do? You need to be relevant. You need to be cutting edge. You need to post more photos so people can follow you again. John, what are you going to do? And this is what John the Baptist said. This is his response. John 3:30, he wrote, he must become more important while I become less important. Isn't that incredible? Is that not what we're called to do at the end of the day? It's not meant to be about me. The world might tell me that it is, but it's actually meant, everything that I do is meant to point to Jesus, to give glory to God. Everything in my life is meant to be a light so that people don't think, how great is Sarah, because she's not, but people go, wow, look at what God has done in her life. Everything we are and everything we do is meant to point back to him, and that's what happens when our identity is found in him. All right, third point, we've got to move real quick. The last thing, the potential thing that can happen is feelings of comparison or fear of missing out. Looking on social media has caused people to compare their lives. It's caused people to feel like, I've got to keep up with what's going on, or I need to know what's happening on social media because I'm afraid that I'm going to miss out. Everyone's leading more exciting lives than me. Look at the amazing things that people do on the holidays they go on, and it makes people feel like that they don't have a sense of purpose. Their life is meaningless. Their life is boring, and it causes, again, those feelings of anxiety and depression. Someone recently wrote, social media is the life that we want people to believe that we lead. Social media is a snapshot. It's often highlights. Sometimes the highlights aren't so real, but it's often highlights. It's not the mundane, the boring, the lows of life. It's just snapshots, but when we look at that and it can make us feel like our life isn't very good, or there's nothing going on for me. The problem with comparison is it's unhealthy and it leads to feelings of envy. You know, Proverbs 14:30 says, a heart at peace gives life to the body, but envy rots the bones. Galatians 6:4-5 says this, make a careful exploration of who you are and the work you've been given, and then sink yourself into that. Don't be impressed with yourself. Man, the Bible can be direct. Don't be impressed with yourself. Don't compare yourself with others. Each of you must take responsibility for doing the creative best you can with your own life. You know, if you're comparing your life to others, you are failing to understand that God has a great plan and a great purpose for your life. See, I don't need to compare to anyone else or wonder what are they doing compared to me, because I just get to run the race that God set for me. No, He has great things for my life, a plan to prosper me, good things in store, and in that way I'm not feeling insecure about what the person next to me is doing. You know, in taking all of these three things, right, the truth is that they can all be solved by one thing. When our foundation and identity is found in Jesus, when we know who we are because of Him, none of these things can have an effect on us. And you know what the truth is we can laugh about social media and teenagers, but at some point in life, we can all be affected by anxiety and depression. We can all think, oh, other people's life is better than mine. We can all struggle with what our identity is, social media aside. With any of those things, we have to keep in mind, I've got to go back to Him. I have to go back to the foundation of the Word of God. I've got to let that be the truth on what I stand. I've got to let that be the identity that shapes me. We always have to come back to a foundation in Him and come back to the truth of God. You know, if I could give you two things to take away from this when it comes to social media, but any of these issues, I want to give you two verses. Romans 12:2 says, do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that by testing you may discern what is the will of God, what is good and acceptable and perfect. And then I want you to read this verse. This is the best. 1 John 2:15-17. Don't love the world's ways. Don't love the world's goods. Love of the world squeezes out love for the Father. Practically everything that goes on in the world, wanting your own way, wanting everything for yourself, wanting to appear important, it has nothing to do with the Father. It just isolates you from Him. The world and all its wanting is on the way out, but whoever does what God wants is set for eternity. We can clap the word of God. That is incredible. How relevant is that for us in our world? How relevant is that when it comes to social media? Again, not saying that social media is bad, but if that's the thing that our focus is on, if that's the thing that is defining us, if that's the thing that I'm getting my sense of identity from, or if it's anything else, it doesn't make room for God. Instead, I've got to make sure my foundation is firmly planted on Him. And that's how we can make sure that for us, for our children, for our families, when our foundation is firmly on Him, the things of social media in the world, they're not going to have that effect on us. All right, I'm going to race through. I want to give you guys a couple now practical tips really quickly, just for ourselves and for parents in particular, to help us when it comes to social media. We're going to very quickly look at the 10 commandments of social media. Number 1, thou shalt not tell thy friends too much. TMI people. Next. Thou shalt not share information that makes sense only to thyself. You know those people who write on Facebook, oh my gosh, the most exciting thing just happened. And then that's it. What happened? Why bother telling me that if you're not going to tell me what it is that happened? It's not a private Dear Diary. If you're going to say that, tell me what happened. I really don't like that. Next, thou shalt not compare others on Instagram. That's right, we already covered that. Thou shalt not turn social media into thine own personal pulpit. Okay, serious moment. You know how we used to say, years ago, don't Bible bash people? Facebook has become the new way of Bible bashing. If you are going to write something that is judgmental, if you're going to write something that causes arguments, don't post it. You want to share the gospel and the love of God with people? Love people. Don't get all preachy on Facebook because it's not going to help anyone. Next, thou shalt not make up a fake job experience on LinkedIn. Come on, guys. Thou shalt not brag about yourself. You know why? Because no one cares. Next. Thou shalt not start a discussion online that should happen in person. Ooh, that's a good one. Let's not hide behind social media. It's safe sitting in front of our screens. But if there's a real deal conversation we need to have with someone, let's do what the Bible says. Let's go and approach that person and have that conversation. Thou shalt not believe everything you read. Come on. All right, next. Thou shalt not show their friends images that they shall regret seeing. There are some things that you just can't unsee. Like that picture of Pastor Josh in the Dead Sea that we saw last Friday. Thanks a lot, Pastor Greg. Can't unsee it. All right. Thou shalt not complain against the church on Facebook. Please, guys, just please. Okay, a couple practical things for parents. All right, I'm going to get my psychologist on. I know I'm not a parent, okay? So here's my disclaimer. What I'm about to say, I don't have to live out, and I know that there's an ease to that. So I'm not going to say this in my lovely, sweet, pastoral voice. I'm going to say this in my psychologist voice that is very direct. Hear my heart. And this might not be relevant to you, but I see so many kids and teenagers who come into my office who heartbreaking things have happened because of the misuse of social media. Heartbreaking things. Police getting involved, court cases, having to write statements. Teenagers who have been damaged because of the misuse of social media. So when I say this, I'm going to say it very directly, and I know I'm not a parent, but this is the psychologist. Parents, when it comes to social media, you need to parent. Just the same as you teach your kids to eat their vegetables and make their bed, when it comes to social media, you can't just let your kids do whatever they want when it comes to it. There are boundaries and things that you need to know and become aware of, and things that you need to put in place. It's the same illustration as this. When you're 16, you get to drive, right? But no parent hands the keys over to a car and says, all right, go have fun, good luck. Because we know that as exciting as driving is, if it's misused, it can actually be deadly. The same is true for social media. Social media can be a lot of fun. It can be great. No one's saying that no one should use social media, use judgment. But if we just go to our kids, I don't know much about it, I just let them, go on it and have fun. That's not okay, because social media can become deadly if there's not restrictions, guidelines, and a conversation that is had. So parents, you might not know much about social media, but you need to make yourselves aware. I'm going to really quickly give you a couple of key things. First one, there is a lot of age-inappropriate content. The best thing that you can do as a parent is actually look and see who do your kids follow and what is the content that they can see, so you can put restrictions in place if you need to. Next, there are public default settings. What that means is often with an app you create a profile. Unless you set it to private, anyone can see your kid's photos, your kid's name. It's so dangerous. You've got to make sure that your kid's settings are set to private. There are location tracking and sharing on almost every social media app these days. That means if you don't turn it off, your kid posts a photo, it actually says where they currently are in the world. We know how dangerous that can be. Again, we need to go into the settings and we need to turn those things off. We've got to have conversations with our kids about real-time video streaming. That is, if they're going to post live videos of themselves, it's live, and they need to be aware and wise with what kind of videos they're posting. Same with, I'm going to skip one, temporary pictures and photos. We need to have conversations with our kids that temporary is not actually temporary. That when you post anything, it might disappear after 30 seconds, but it doesn't disappear from the World Wide Web. Is that even what we call that anymore? The internet. I don't know where I got that from. It doesn't just disappear. We've got to teach our kids about what kind of things to show and act. Don't just leave it up to them. I know that you all have amazing kids who would never post anything bad, but don't just leave it up to them. Have a conversation about it. You've got to talk to them about, even there's so many cases of things that have happened, just bring awareness to them. Blocking and reporting. Many apps have the ways to block people, to report inappropriate content. Make sure that you're aware of what those things are and how to use them. I want to show you one post that a parent, Renee Bennett, she's someone who used to be a part of our church. Pastor Cameron came a couple of weeks ago. She posted this the other day, and I want you to read it because she is a parent and she says it very well. Parents of teenage girls, parenting does not stop on social media. We need to parent them through and on their devices and give them rules. We can't be passive parents. I'm tired of seeing more flesh than clothing. We must teach them to respect themselves and everyone else to respect them too. It is possible. We walk our 16-year-old through it still to this day. Below are some of our rules if you want to have a look. Only post selfies every few pics. No posting in bikinis and underwear. No posting in suggestive positions. Only go on social media for a while in the afternoon. No phones in the bedroom at night. Do respect yourself. Do use it to celebrate others. Do use it to give yourself a good reputation. Check their private messages regularly, and they might not always get it right, so be patient and talk them through their choices. How good is that? Look, you can take from that what you will. It's not that you need to take those rules and apply it to your child, but you do need to have a conversation and put boundaries in place. Is that okay? All right, psychologist voice done. Pastoral Sarah. You know, we're going to come to a close, but before we do, I just want to take a moment to just open up an opportunity. You know, earlier I said that, you know, we live in a broken world and there's all things that we face, social media aside, things like anxiety and depression and not understanding our identity and our purpose. And I just want to put it out there that I said before that the solution to that is knowing God and knowing that our foundation is on Him. It's knowing that He loves us, finding our value in Him. And you know what? I know in an auditorium this size that not all of us necessarily know God in a personal manner. And I just want to take just 2 minutes to just give you the invitation. If you don't know God, and I don't mean like I know I've heard of God or I know who Jesus is, I mean, if you don't know God, if you're not in a personal relationship with God, that you know that He loves you unconditionally, that He has a great plan and a great purpose for your life. And like I was talking before about having a foundation on Him and not on anything else, I can guarantee you this, you need Jesus. You know what? I love the work that I do as a psychologist, but it breaks my heart sometimes because strategies are good and there's great things about psychology. But at the end of the day, that in itself is not the answer. In fact, there's no other answer in life except Jesus. Nothing else will make everything okay. There's good things, but there is nothing except having Jesus in our life. He's the foundation. He's the one who we find ourselves in. He's who we feel loved and accepted in.